I want to talk to you today about the tension that naturally exists between libertarian political philosophy and the principle of paternalism. Libertarian political philosophy is the political philosophy that we practice in our country. Notice that under the word libertarian is the word liberty. Therefore, freedom is the paramount institution that we cherish in this country. Freedom for the individual. We all agree, however, that you cannot have unlimited freedom. For instance, you can't shout fire in a crowded movie theater. You can't rape, rob, steal, embezzle. There are certain restrictions on our freedoms. Like I shared with you earlier in this semester, we're all born and we visibly put in a box. It's bounded by rules that reflect values that become our code of ethics. These rules, these values, these laws are what keep us safe. They provide for the general welfare of society. So we want some restrictions on our freedoms, restrictions that we all agree to. These restrictions are encoded in the law, and they provide a basis for community, for the benefit or the general welfare of the society. Therefore, there's a natural tension that's always going to exist between paternalistic institutions, usually government, but sometimes a regulating agency, and you. How much freedom are you allowed to have? We have decided that we want to have certain institutions regulated by our government, a standing military, police force, fire department, health, and education. They need to be manned by people. People aren't going to work for anything. So one of our regulating agencies provides for taxation. It gives us the funds we need in order to regulate these provisions for the general welfare of our society, and in a sense then that impinges on our individual freedom to make money and be entitled to keep all that we make. Now, tension is not to be seen as a negative, although sometimes it can be a negative. On your hand, you have 5 fingers. The thumb, from a physiological point of view, is called an opposing thumb. It sits in opposition to the other fingers on the hand, but this tension provides for an activity that is not possible if the thumb is no longer being used. Very hard to pick up objects and use them. When I have the thumb working, however, in an opposing or tension way, suddenly this hand becomes extremely useful to us. So tension can have a positive aspect. We consider the tension between libertarian political philosophy and paternalism positive when we choose, when we make choices to restrict but not surrender our freedoms for the general welfare of society. We enact laws, we have agencies that govern over us that provide for the enactment of these laws, the fairness of these laws, the justice of these laws, so that we can maximize freedom. But we never have unlimited freedom. And we need to understand that as part of the social arrangement that we live in. This gives us the basis, again, for the general welfare of our society. Now, this tension can become negative. Government can become overbearing, too many rules, too many regulations, too much taxation. But we can go too far the other way, too. When we go too far the other way, we get into anarchy. People think there's no need to have regulations. And without regulations, there can be catastrophic events. Airplanes literally can fall out of the sky because the companies perhaps are desirable to make too much money. They want to shortcut some maintenance that needs to be done. This happened about, I think, 5 or 6 years ago. 2 planes for Alaska Airlines literally fell out of the sky within months of each other. They had a bolted thread that was designed to be replaced after so many hours in the air. It regulated the ailerons and the back tail of the airplane to allow the plane to go down and go up. They got very close to having to replace it. It was like 1/16 of an inch. Further deterioration of the threads on this bolt. They would have had to replace it. It turns out that was just enough to cause failure in both those airplanes, and over 250 people died as a result of it. So this tension is provided in a positive way. It can be misused, but it is there to regulate the balance between freedom and the need to have rules, values, codes of ethics that allow for the general welfare in society.